Welcome back, everyone. Michael here with Offshore Citizen. The other day, I had the chance to sit down with the head of the Antigua CBI program. And so what follows is an interview with her. Very wonderful lady. And so you'll get all the details. I haven't actually done a video to date explaining all the logistics of Antigua specifically. And there are a few advantages. I've done some other videos where I've talked about kind of the advantages of the program, but I thought it was best to let her explain it. And so I hope you enjoy it. We've had a number of clients actually interested specifically in Antigua over the last little while, and I think there's some good reasons why it's an interesting program for certain types of people anyway. And so yeah, it was a pleasure to sit down with her and hear from her about what kind of the different changes that they've made, because there's really some things that have been improved a lot in the last 2 years, and so I think that's good. I would say that of the programs I've observed, they're one of the most adaptive, which I think is a really positive thing. So before we get started, hit the subscribe button, hit the all notifications. Really appreciate your support. If you like the video, please tell me, give me some feedback, share it, give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like help with getting second residencies, citizenships, international tax optimization, setting up abroad, relocating, etc., please book a call with me. calendly.com/Michael-Rosmer, link in the description below, or send a message to our websites, offshorecitizen.net, offshorecapitalist.com, and enjoy the interview. All right, welcome back, everyone. It is Michael here, and I am here today with Charmaine, who is the CEO of the Antigua Citizenship by Investment Program. So super excited to have you with us. Thank you for joining us today.
And thank you for having me, Michael.
Absolutely. So Antigua is actually one of the programs we probably talked the least about on this channel, so I'm really excited to have you here to kind of go through. I think that maybe one of the reasons I've talked less about it is because there's lots of options on it. So maybe you can start off by just giving us an introduction to the program for anyone who's not familiar with it.
Sure. So Antigua and Barbuda program is still pretty young. It's we're in our 8th year. Started in 2013. That was the government's response to the global financial meltdown. 8 years in, we now have 4 options on the table. The first being the National Development Fund option, and that is the most applied for option, actually. Just
for people who don't understand, that's like the donation option, basically, or well, it's one of the donation options we're going to get into in a second. So,
yes, sure. Then you have a real estate option, where you can purchase real estate that has been approved by the government.
Yeah, and is that when they're getting it, do they get a property of their own, or is it a shared unit in a development?
Well, we have a mix on the island. You can either share a unit, you can purchase shares in a unit, you could own title with someone else, or you can purchase the unit outright and have singular title.
Cool.
We also have the business investment option, where you can actually establish a business, or you can invest in an approved business. And most recently, we started the investment in the University of the West Indies option. And we're very proud of it because we now have the 4th landed campus of the University of the West Indies. The University of the West Indies is actually in the top 1.5 percentile of universities in the world. So it's a big deal for us. So we're super proud. Super proud to be able to host that campus. And so this option was actually developed to continue to support the campus and expand the campus. So the funds that are generated under this option actually go to the University of the West Indies. And with this option, it is actually the best, the most attractive large family option available throughout wherever
anywhere
these
in the
programs,
world.
These programs are offered. So for a family of 6, the investment amount is $150,000, which includes the processing fees. And if amongst the family there is someone at university level age, they can attend the university for free, tuition free for 1 year.
Amazing.
So it's really exciting. It's a lot of persons are registering interest in that program. We're seeing the numbers being submitted increase under this option.
That's like half the price of our you could just go to a university in the U.S. and you might pay half that per year anyway. So it's
that's right. That's right.
So just quickly for our audience, what are the costs of those different options?
Sure. So for the National Development Fund, it's a one-time contribution of $100,000, and that is for a family size of 4 or less.
Yep.
If it's a family size of 5 or more, the investment threshold is $125,000. So the one-time contribution is $125,000, and then you have processing fees of $30,000 for families of 5 or more. For each additional dependent, there is a $15,000 processing fee. Due diligence depends on the composition of the application. So for the principal applicant, it's $7,500. The spouse, $7,500. For adult dependents, meaning dependents over the age of 18, it's $4,000, and children between 12 and 17, it's $2,000.
Yeah. If somebody's wondering, rather than trying to write all that down, you can reach out to us and we'll get you a quote and all that kind of stuff to make it simple. So it's cool. So that's the first one.
Development.
Yep.
For real estate, we have $200,000 is the threshold that you can obtain a unit outright. You can also obtain a unit at a threshold of $400,000 outright, or you can join with another applicant to $200 each for a unit at $400,000 or more.
And do you have to know that other applicant, or is there some process to facilitate matching applicants who are interested in doing that?
So the only requirement we have right now is that both applications must be submitted by the same agent.
Okay.
So you don't necessarily need to be a blood relative of the applicant. As long as you're using the same agent to submit the application, you can apply.
Perfect.
Yes.
Cool. Okay, so that's the second one. Now then the business one.
So the business investment, if you're a single investor, the threshold is $1.5 million. If you are a group of investors, the minimum threshold is $5 million. Of course, there's no real maximum. But the only requirement is that each applicant must at least submit $400,000.
Okay.
So of the $5 million, each person must contribute at least $400,000.
Yep, makes sense. And if I recall correctly, is there some restriction on which industries those businesses can be in?
No, there are no real restrictions. As long as it's legal, we'll accept.
Yeah.
But of course, it goes through an approval process with the government at first.
Yeah. And is that the same for if it's investing in an existing company versus doing a new company, or how does?
Yes, the existing company must also be approved by the government, and if you wish to establish a new company, you need to go through that approval process as well. So just to be clear, you must approve the business first before it can be used as a qualifying option to apply under the program.
And do you have to put the money into the business first, or you submit like a business plan and
then submit a business plan? There's a whole application process which we'd be happy to help your clients with should they need. But there's an application process which requires you to submit certain documents like Development Control Authority approval, environmental impact assessment, and so a number of documents are required in order for your business to be approved.
Yep. Are there different timelines for these different programs, or are they all kind of similar in terms of how long it should take for an application to go through?
Well, generally, yes. Once you submit all of the documents, there's a turnaround on average now between 8 to 10 weeks, as long as there are no issues with the application. Where you find that there is a lengthening in the process is if during the processing of the application we have to request additional documents. Of course, there is time to write to you to ask, then for you to reach out to your client to get the documentation, then for us to receive and authenticate and go through the due diligence process with these additional documents.
Always one of the things,
But once there are no issues with the application, an average of 8 to 10 weeks, you get your approval.
Cool. And the approval, just to clarify to some people, because I've had some clients where this was a little bit unclear, the approval is not actually when you get the passport in hand. There's a little bit of a delay there from when you're approved till you actually have your passport, right?
Yes, that's correct. So once you're approved, we're saying to you that your application has been approved. Now submit the required investment so that you can obtain your citizenship certificate.
Yeah.
So through this process, you are a citizen, so you get a citizenship certificate. Yeah. Our unit is unique in the fact that we actually facilitate the passport. So we generate the citizenship certificate and we take the application from the agent and submit it to the passport office ourselves.
Okay.
So yes, so we are very involved in that process. So in the end, when it's complete, we actually present you with the citizenship certificate and the passport together.
Yep.
Because of course the citizenship certificate forms part of the passport application.
Yeah. Cool. Now, one of the things I think that is most attractive about the Antigua program as compared with some of the others is who all can be included in it. So maybe talk to us a little bit about that.
Yes, most recently, actually, towards the end of last year, as a matter of fact, we expanded the definition of dependents, and I'm not sure that it's you can get that in any other program.
It's for sure the broadest. Yeah, absolutely.
It's unmatched.
Yeah, it's very smart.
So you can. People who qualify as dependents are, of course, your spouse.
Yep.
And based on our laws in Antigua and Barbuda, it's only one spouse.
Okay.
You can include your dependent children up to age 30.
Yep.
You can also include your parents and your grandparents, age 55 or more.
Yep.
Your in-laws as well, age 55 or more. If you have a child who is older than 18 but is physically or mentally challenged, there's no age limit on that as long as you're able to provide the requisite documents that a child can be included.
Yep.
And most recently, we're allowing you to include your siblings.
Yep.
And the only criteria is that your sibling has to be unmarried.
Yep.
So it could be that the sibling is divorced or widowed or single, just never been married, but as long as the sibling isn't married, he or she can be included in the application. No age limit.
Yep.
And we allow you to submit your grandchild, so a child of your dependent child or spouse of your dependent child can also be added.
Great. Now, just a couple technicalities on this. So you say dependent children up to the age of 30.
Yes.
First of all, is it included up to and including 30?
Yes,
okay.
Up to and including 30.
Okay. And then what's the definition of dependent in this particular case?
So dependent meaning that you are providing some sort of support to the child. If your child is a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, I don't think that child would be qualifying as a dependent, being dependent on you for financial support.
Yeah, but typically if they were, say, enrolled in university or something like that.
Enrolled in university, or even if they're doing internship because you completed your degree and you're now doing residency for those medical students, or if you're doing internship in your particular industry, you can be included. Yep. And now there's actually no requirement in this iteration of the program for you to submit proof that you are enrolled in a university.
Oh, great. That's very good to know.
We just need for your parent to submit an affidavit of support to declare that, yes, I am supporting Michael.
Nice. So another few technicalities. Spouses included. Does that include same-sex spouses or not?
Currently, the laws of Antigua and Barbuda recognize a marriage as a union between a man and a woman.
Okay.
So it'll have to be...
Yep, that's... okay, and then for the parents and grandparents over 55, do they have to be financially dependent on you?
They need to show some sort of dependency on you. If, again, your father is CEO of a Fortune 500 company, it'd be difficult for us to make the case that he or she...
What if he's not taking a salary? You know, he's like Warren Buffett, only takes $1 a year or something.
Well, we will invite Warren Buffett to make a separate application to
us. Sounds good. Okay, so we've gone through those, so that's great. Now, I think there's like an interesting trade-off here historically, because Antigua and Barbuda is historically the only one of the the five Caribbean programs that requires a visit to the islands. But you were also mentioning when we were just out in the other area talking that there have been kind of some changes over the last, I guess, couple of years, just due to changing circumstances, et cetera. So maybe you talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. So a feature of the Antigua and Barbuda Citizenship by Investment program is that as long as you're successful, you're required to come and visit Antigua for 5 days, just 5 days, 1 week, a week vacation in the first 5 years of obtaining citizenship. A number of the successful applicants, initially perhaps there was some resistance or some reluctance, but when they do make that trip, they're like, well, thank you for insisting that we come, because the country is so beautiful, there are so many opportunities for us to live here, to make further investments and so on. So it actually is a very welcomed feature of our program. However, we are a very flexible program. We realize we are still in the midst of a pandemic, and there is restricted mobility for certain people. And so the government, in its wisdom, has agreed to suspend the 5-day visit until the end of August 2022. There is, again, some flexibility with that, so this may not be the finite time. And of course, as we make the changes, we will make the necessary announcements. But you're still able to come, but it's just that it's not a requirement. If you have reached your 5 years and you would like to renew your passport, there's no requirement for you to demonstrate that you've actually visited the country. So that's good. The other change that we made recently is to allow persons, again because of the coronavirus pandemic, we are allowing persons to swear their oath outside of Antigua and Barbuda. Our legislation requires that you swear the oath on Antigua and Barbudan soil, and so we've made some changes. We really thought outside of the box to enable persons to be able to stay where they are and still be considered swearing the oath on Antigua and Barbudan soil. So we are now allowing persons to visit an embassy, consulate, or representative office of Antigua and Barbuda in their jurisdiction or neighboring jurisdiction, and they can swear their oath there because that is considered Antigua and Barbudan soil. The most innovative thing we've done recently is to allow persons to swear their oath virtually. So you can swear your oath,
very, very positive.
So you can swear your oath virtually in your own hometown in the presence of a local notary. So you're here in Dubai, you're not able to attend to our representative office here, perhaps because our ambassador is not on island and you really need to swear your oath very urgently. We will allow you to sit with your notary public, and we will facilitate from our unit the swearing of the oath. If you're in a jurisdiction where you cannot find a notary, take for instance jurisdiction like China, where the notaries are an extension of the government, so they're not able to facilitate the oath, then you can sit in the comfort of your own home and swear the oath in the presence of a local notary in Antigua and Barbuda.
Nice.
So yes, flexible program.
Yeah, very flexible, absolutely. Very adaptive, absolutely.
Yes.
We like that quite a bit. Yeah, one of the things I think is worth it for people to understand is, generally speaking with these programs, people don't go and live on these islands. So it's, but interestingly, I would say that of the islands, I probably have the most clients who are interested in actually going to live there. We're working with a few people right now who actually legitimately are like, hey, I want to go and live there. And then also, and something you were mentioning earlier as well, is it's common to flag a vessel out of there. And so, I had a call with somebody yesterday, I think it was, who was like, yeah, I wouldn't mind flagging my boat out of Antigua and Barbuda. So that's like an attractive thing, I think, as compared to some of the other programs for people who are interested in doing
Antigua is, by far the most developed of the 5 countries that are offering citizenship by investment. I actually know of a number of successful applicants who have moved to Antigua. Their children are attending the same school as my children, because the standard of living in Antigua and the infrastructure available in Antigua is comparable to the developed countries, and so people find it very easy, very seamless to move to Antigua and Barbuda.
Cool. And what are you guys doing to improve the program and improve the Antiguan passport as a more attractive document? Obviously, it's a competitive market, right? So what are you doing to be more competitive than the other guys?
So there are a number of things that we're doing. First, as it relates to maintaining and increasing the number of countries to which we have visa-free access, we have ongoing talks, bilateral talks with the international community, getting them to understand that Antigua and Barbuda is a reputable program, and the robustness of our due diligence process ensures that only reputable persons are able to be successful through the program. So it's really important to get our partners to understand that we are running a legitimate program. The second thing is that we continue to work with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to look at new jurisdictions that we can actually make some agreements and obtain visa-free access to. As I was saying in my previous session, we continue to have intense dialogue with Canada, and we feel
I'm from Canada, so you know, it's,
awesome.
If I ever run into Trudeau, I'll tell him, hey, you know, Antigua and Barbuda.
Please do. We're very optimistic. It may not happen today or tomorrow, but we're optimistic that we can make some traction and regain our Canadian visa-free arrangement.
For those who aren't familiar, Antigua and Barbuda used to have Canadian visa-free access, and then how long ago was that it was lost?
About 4 years ago, 2017, right?
Okay, yeah. So it was lost. So hopefully get it back. That would do a lot to make the passport much more attractive.
That's right.
And so yeah, that would be.
And then the final thing that I would like to share about making our program more attractive is that we are one of the first out of the door to try to make this connection with our diaspora. We want to ensure that it's not just a transactional process where you make your investment and you get our passport, but we want you to feel a part of Antigua and Barbuda. We want you to feel as though you belong. So we recently brought on board our inward investment and marketing consultant, Mr. Thomas Anthony. I know he's no stranger to the industry. He's been in the industry for 8-9 years now, and so he's working with us to develop that piece where we tap into our diaspora, our Antiguans and Barbudans, wherever they are, and help them to make the connection, as he would put it, build that bridge to ensuring that they can understand what being an Antiguan and Barbudan truly means, and also give them an opportunity to come and live in Antigua and Barbuda if they would like to, or make further investments in the country. It's their country now as well.
That's
so these are some of the things that we're doing to improve the program.
That reminds me of a question that I meant to ask. Is it possible to inherit, like, say you become an Antiguan and Barbudan and then you have kids, and then they have kids, like, is it passed down or is it not passed down?
But based on our legislation, what is allowed is that the person can be added to your application for a small fee, based on the current legislation. But we've had some talks while we've been here in Dubai, and I know that I'll be going back to the government and having some additional discussions to see what can be done.
Cool. And so then maybe to kind of like wrap up, one of the things that is interesting is how, you know, different countries have different opportunities available to them. And so there's certain, I think countries have a very biased view sometimes, and actually it's quite good for countries like Antigua and Barbuda to be able to use this as a way to bring revenue into the country. So can you speak a little bit to what it is that is done with the money in the country based on?
So the program really has increased in terms of the level of support that it has been given to the country. I think we're up to about 10% of the gross domestic product right now.
So for context, people, like, we're not talking about like 10% of revenues, we're talking about 10% of GDP. It's a really big percentage of like what goes into the coffers of the country.
Correct. And so primarily the revenues so far have been used to support the economic development of the country. In my previous discussion, we were speaking about how the contribution to the healthcare industry in Antigua and Barbuda, how it supported the government in the pandemic. Yes, because of course at that time the revenues for tourism were down, and so it was helpful that the government had these inflows to fall back on. Additionally, the government made a decision that they would not retrench any workers, any public sector workers throughout the pandemic. They understood that everyone was experiencing difficulty, and so they made a promise that no one would be let go. And so because of course your tax revenues would be down because offices are closed, businesses are shut, of course we are heavily dependent on tourism. So if there are no flights coming in, if there are no tourists coming in, the businesses in that industry of course are closed or not generating as much revenue, and then therefore not providing sufficient revenue to the government. So the government was able to tap into the Citizenship by Investment program, the revenues earned through this program, to be able to pay the government workers and just keep the country afloat throughout the pandemic. So I'm very proud that as a national of Antigua and Barbuda myself, that we at the unit have been able to really toil and ensure that the country had funds to fall back on during this low period.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And you were mentioning too some other improvements in the medical system, like you said, people who used to have to go away for cancer treatment are now able to achieve it.
So Antiguans who need cancer treatment can actually stay in Antigua because we have the Cancer Treatment Center. Also, we facilitate the regional use of the cancer center. So prior to the establishment of the center, persons would have to travel internationally to obtain this treatment, but now it's just a short plane ride to Antigua. I also mentioned that 2 years ago we completed our first successful kidney transplant. So we're very proud of the inroads we've been making in terms of improving the healthcare that we're able to offer our citizens and the wider Caribbean as a whole.
Awesome. Well, thanks for taking the time to talk to us a little bit about the program. And
thank you. Thank you for having us today.
100%. Thank you. All right, guys, we will see you on the next video.